What is up, guys? Today I'm going to show you exactly why you have gut inflammation and why you're never actually fixing it. Because most people are always focusing on the wrong things. They're adding supplements to address a symptom and not really address the root cause. So here is basically the problem that most people run into. They use a supplement to relieve a symptom. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not addressing the root cause. So let's say you have intestinal inflammation. Now you use zinc carnosine. It does help to seal the gut. It does help to lower intestinal inflammation, but why do you have it? Is it because you have a zinc carnosine deficiency? Maybe you do have a zinc deficiency. Maybe you do need more carnosine. But let's say carnosine is one of the best antioxidants in the body. Why is carnosine depleted in the first place? It could be because your diet is not nutrient dense enough. There's a multitude of different reasons, but the root cause is fixing that, not just using a supplement like that. When you are still doing things that's actually making gut inflammation worse. So the real culprits stay hidden. So you might have nutritional deficiencies, bacterial overgrowth, sluggish transit time, poor digestion. All of these needs to be addressed, and that will help to fix the intestinal inflammation. So the supplement protocol that most people do is, they go online, look for a supplement that helps to fix constipation or helps reduce bloating. They take it, they feel a little bit better, let's say 50% better, and then it progressively gets worse. Try a new supplement, same thing. Supplements can actually help a lot to relieve symptoms, but when you look at the studies, it works in percentages. You're getting 50% relief, 75% relief. The reason why you're not getting 100% relief is because you're not addressing the root cause. And this is what I'm going to show you today. So what's actually causing intestinal inflammation is that people are consuming processed snacks. So this would be like baked goodies that contains gluten, sugar, polyunsaturated fats. It's fortified with iron, all of which can worsen the inflammation. So the input is the problem. Now, most people's like, I'm just going to go natural, that's going to fix it. Not necessarily. Other things that can cause it is your transit time. You're chronically stressed, using medication. You have a history of antibiotic use. You had food poisoning in the past, all of which can negatively affect the microbiome long term and put you in a permanent state of intestinal inflammation despite eating good. You can have undiagnosed issues like hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, even Graves' disease, H. pylori, which is lowering your stomach acid, or that is just inflaming the stomach lining, and that influences what you can eat and not really eat. You have bowel issues, so you're either not producing enough, it's not flowing, you're creating too much, you have bad bacteria that's converting the primary into secondary, which is then creating inflammation in the body. You have bacterial overgrowth, it could be SIBO, it could be dysbiosis, you could have fungal issues. There's a lot of causes that can contribute to intestinal inflammation. But I want to start with the basics because very few people have created that foundation, which is the diet. You need to be optimizing the diet. You need to be obsessing about the diet because this is where 80 to 90% of the fixes come from. Like most people can just fix it by eating a certain way because eating whole natural foods is not good enough. So simplify the load. This is almost always what I do with people. 1 protein, 1 carb source per meal. You have eggs and a banana. You have ground beef and honey. You have a steak and applesauce. You have ground beef and rice. 1 protein, 1 carbohydrate source. Now people go, they have pizza, they have pasta, they have burritos. Multitude of different ingredients. They never know what is the issue. It could be that the burrito itself is the problem. It could be the beans. It could be the additives, garlic, chili sauce. It could be the gluten of the wrap. So simplify the load. 1 protein, 1 carb source. Then the fat type also matters. So you have fat from beef, from lamb, from dairy, from eggs, olive oil. The fatty acid composition of all of those foods are different. And because the chain lengths of the saturated fatty acids are different, the body is responding differently to it. So a lot of people they might have a sensitivity to beef fat, but they actually tolerate lamb fat better. They tolerate coconut oil very good. They might tolerate olive oil very good. All of these fats promote the release of bile. All of these are fat. And it's not just between saturated, monounsaturated fats. It's because the different food matrices as well. So there is dairy fat. So if you consume milk or cheese with the same fat content as beef, both are saturated. Most people actually tolerate like a soft cheese better than a steak. It's the food matrix that matter as well. So you have the fat type and you have the matrix. that macronutrient is represented in. Some people might not even have a problem with the fat. They might have a problem with the amino acids, with the excess iron. They might not have enough stomach acid to digest the red meat in the first place. So pressure cooking it might actually help. So there's so many different tricks and things you can look at and investigate to improve your digestion. What I always focus on is easy to digest, nutrient-dense foods that doesn't cause inflammation. Things that is always easy to digest for you, that is the most nutrient-dense, that can provide vitamins and minerals, that does not cause inflammation. Because red meat might be easy to digest, but some of the sulfur amino acids might actually create sulfur issues for some people. Or the iron might be feeding some of the pathogenic bacteria. So the most nutrient-dense foods in terms of protein is dairy, eggs, oysters, red meat, liver, and gizzards. These are generally most rich in vitamins and minerals and best to consume on a regular basis. They are very dense in the micronutrients, that's the point. Like you can still consume this nutrient on, let's say, a vegan diet. You just need to consume a lot more food to get the same amount of nutrients from it. When it comes to carbs, certain fruits, potatoes, sweet potatoes, and oats, grains in general, but it's higher in anti-nutrients. So you need to be prepping that properly. Things like apple and honey are also amazing for carbohydrates, but they're not really rich in vitamins and minerals. I'm not against eating foods low in vitamins and minerals, but you need to be prioritizing vitamins and minerals so that you don't have any deficiencies, so that you can actually burn foods like apples and bananas, like the carbohydrates, without it causing issues. Because if you have a nutritional deficiency, you won't be burning glucose and fat and metabolizing your macronutrients properly. This is why I focus on vitamins and minerals so much. And then lastly, the individual sensitivities vary. Everyone will respond differently to different foods. You need to taste. There's no answer like eliminate this, do that. You have to experiment. And always be sure that it is non-inflammatory, non-allergenic, right? You could be eating an apple and you get sensitivities. You skin the apple and suddenly it's completely fine. You try honey. The darker honey gives you negative symptoms. A light honey actually you tolerate perfectly well. Or you use something like an agave syrup and you tolerate that extremely well. So you have to experiment with different things. People love to demonize carbs are bad or fat is bad. But it comes down to different sources. You can try different things in different ways, differently processed, and it will affect you differently. Different food combinations, which we'll get into. So it's the combination of different foods that really matter. So let's say you eat a ribeye and a potato. So now you have starch, high carb, high fat, and protein. Gastric emptying is extremely slow. And a lot of people get negative symptoms when they do that combination. They get heart palpitations. They feel like they're going to get a panic attack. It just sits there. They start to get reflux. Maybe they end up with constipation and or diarrhea afterwards. Versus if they just had the ribeye with honey or a banana or an apple, which is generally much easier to digest than a large amount of potato, they have no issues. Or you have a sirloin, which is much leaner with a potato or rice, and you have no issues because you no longer have the starch and the fat messing with each other's digestion, slowing gastric emptying, and then causing issues. So before you decide that red meat is bad, instead of having something fatty, have something lean. Some people need more fat. So instead of having something lean, have something more fatty. Because some people need more bile. Some people need more bile to digest the fat and to help with transit time. If someone's more constipated with slow transit time, they might benefit from more bile, like a little bit of a higher fat diet. Someone with loose stool might benefit more from a lower fat approach, so that less bile is secreted. Then we have the hidden triggers and behaviors. So FODMAP, you've probably heard about like fermentable fibers. And people say when you bloat, just eliminate all FODMAP. That's a great first step. But not all FODMAP is the same. And some people tolerate some fermentable fibers and not others. It depends on how rapidly it digests. Rapidly fermentable fibers are more likely to cause intestinal issues. But even that can be different for a different individual. So for example, my wife used to be extremely sensitive to fast fermentable fibers, like inulin. She can't have even 200 milligrams of inulin and she would get symptoms like immediately. We gave her Kestose, which is a fiber extracted from sugar beets. Very fast fermentable, zero issues. On the other side, she tolerates slow fermentable fibers like cassia fiber extremely well. She has no issues. And even a little bit of apple pectin, she tolerates that extremely well. So you're not sensitive to all kinds of fibers. You have to experiment with different things to see what you tolerate best. And then also the cooking process can actually also impact how you tolerate that. Then we have processed foods. So we already talked about that. Things like pralines, even in sugar-free products, can be bad. And then the behavior, like a lot of people, they stress eat, they just shovel food. And when you shovel food, you finish your dish really fast. So let's say you finish it in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But the satiety signals can take 20 to 30 minutes to kick in. And because it didn't kick in yet, now you eat even more. And now you have this huge bolus of food that needs to be digested. And now you consume the food so quickly, you didn't chew properly. Now it puts additional demand on stomach acid, on digestive enzymes, on bile release, which can then worsen gut issues. So the point is not just to eat slow for satiety purposes, but it's also to eat slower so that it removes strain from the digestive tract. And then also in terms of stress. Stress is pretty bad for your digestion in 3 main ways. First of all, it reduces your digestive capacity by reducing stomach acid release, digestive enzymes, and bile. So when you eat, food is just going to sit there for much longer. This is different from person to person. Some people can actually eat when they're stressed, some people can't. A lot of people are subconsciously stressed, which is always why it's a good thing to focus on easy to digest foods that doesn't require a lot of digestive demand. Let's say dairy digests much faster and easier than a complex meal like ribeye and potato. Chronic stress can also lead to intestinal damage, like ulcerative colitis is an extreme example where you start to get ulcers from the stress. And you have digestive enzymes like lactase in your gastrointestinal tract, which helps to digest lactose. So if you're lactose intolerant, it could actually be because of intestinal inflammation or chronic stress that decrease the expression of that enzyme. And then lastly, you also have immune suppression from chronic stress, which then allows pathogens to grow in your gut. So over time, you might develop more food sensitivities, your digestion might start to get worse and worse, you suddenly develop symptoms you never had, constipation, alternated by diarrhea, acid reflux, etc., because chronic stress just makes this worse and worse over time. So the point is try to manage your stress as best as possible, especially when eating. But if you can't really manage it, always focus on things that's easiest to digest. Eggs, dairy, oysters, organ meat, fruit, honey. These you tend to digest very easily. So a lot of people think that liquids and fruit aren't a meal. It's more like a snack. It's more like an add-on. But the cheat code is actually to rely on those foods, especially if digestion is compromised. What we just discussed is tier 1. This is like manipulating and changing and optimizing your diet. So that can help to fix your intestinal inflammation. Most people can get massive benefits just from doing this. But if your diet's already dialed in and you've tried so many things and it's not working, this is when you take the next step. This is when you add digestive enzymes or take supplements to manipulate your bile or manipulate your transit time. This is where you start using targeted interventions for your specific issue where food is not enough. But the thing is, most people start by adding supplements instead of starting with a diet. So very often they could have fixed it with a diet, but now they added supplements. And now the supplements is a little bit working, so they never revisit diet, see if they can fix it. So the real fix here is optimize your diet, keep your stress as low as possible, focus on easy to digest, nutrient-dense, not inflammatory foods. Change one variable at a time, reduce meal sizes, maybe reduce fat, maybe reduce starches. You have to experiment until you find what works for you. So most guys, they do not need more supplements, they just need the right order. They need to focus on food first. So if you would like to know about tier 2, proper tasting, what supplements to use for what specific condition, I wrote a whole article on that. Link will be in the description below. Hope you enjoyed. Check you on the next one.